Sometimes I make videos just because I get a lot of comments of the same thing, and I want to... It would take too long to just write out the answer in the comment section every single time someone asks the question. For example, my video where I talked about what my Transformers Lore series is supposed to cover. You know, what's within my jurisdiction of what I'm willing to cover in Transformers Lore. I made that video just as a response for whenever I make a G.I. Joe video, if someone in the comments says, why is this labeled Transformers Lore when it's a G.I. Joe story, I just send them the link to that video, because that has my entire reasoning and explanation in it. This video is a bit weird because it's something I'm going to answer something really quickly that I get asked a lot about in the comment sections, even though I do intend to make a proper video on this exact same topic. I've been intending to make the video since 2016, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So if it looks like I'm not going to get around to it anytime soon, might as well quickly make a video quickly explaining answering the question. The question I get, and this is often on the Transformers Lore original trilogy videos, episode 1, 2, and 3, which are a little bit outdated, a little bit incorrect. I've done 5 different drafts of a new version. I just want to be more comprehensive than just those 3 episodes. So there are some inaccuracies, but there's also a corrections episode that nobody seems to watch. But the question I get is where the Quintessons from the the Japanese and American Generation 1 cartoon fit into everything. Because it talks about the Primus stuff, the 13 and all that stuff, and they're like, because the Transformers a lot of people know is just the G1 cartoon, and they understand Transformers from the G1 cartoon as being creations of the Quintessons, and they're like, where are the Quintessons, Radix? Why didn't you just talk about the Quintessons? So I'm going to answer that real quickly. For the American Generation 1 okay, first you have to understand the sequence in which the multiverse takes place. You can pretty much divide everything into pre-Primal Scream and post-Primal Scream. What's Primal Scream? In the Transformers Marvel comics, Primus is in a slumber, his head's in the core of Cybertron, and then his face gets shot. It makes him scream, hence the title Primal Scream, and his scream reaches across the multiverse and wakes up Unicron. And with Unicron woken up and Primus woken up, the battle between Primus and Unicron, the Theomachy, begins again. So we know Primus and Unicron go into slumber around the time after the defeat of the 13. Bada bing, bada boom. That's how you get the first section of Transformers lore, from the Big Bang up until the 13 War, and then Unicron and Primus going into slumber. What happens next is the Marvel Transformers comics. The Marvel Transformers comics predate almost everything else, multiverse-wise, in the timeline. Because the Primal Scream has to happen. Unicron and Primus have to wake up before everything else that happens. So, that's why I don't cover the Quintessons in those 3 episodes, because it hasn't happened yet. The Quintessons are the creations of Unicron, and I believe they're the creation of the Primacronian Unicron and not the multiversal singular Unicron. But, where do we start? Okay, so the Theomachy happens, Primal Scream happens. So all of the events of the Marvel Comics stuff happens, Primal Scream happens, Unicron and Primus wake up. And that's when we can start the rest of the Transformers stuff. So going into the American G1 cartoon, the first time we find Primus is Cybertron, and I get the details mixed up as because the Japanese G1 cartoon universe and the American G1 cartoon universe have a lot of similarities, but a few different details here and there. So I'm going to try to tell each one separately, but some details from one might flow accidentally into the other. But in the American G1 universe, there's the Cybertron of this universe hasn't been fully transformed, hasn't been cyberformed yet. It's still organic. And I can't remember, American G1 and Japanese G1, one of them has a Cybertron that was always purely organic, and one has a Cybertron that was always part organic, part cyberformed, I think. But regardless, in the American G1 continuity, Cybertron's an organic world. And at around this time in Ancient Time G1 cartoon continuity, which is taking place after the Marvel stuff, Primacron is out there, a native to that universe, and he's creating Unicron. Now, the relationship between the Primacronian Unicron and the multiversal singular Unicron is kind of weird. There's like hints left here and there that they might be connected in some way, but it was never fully like expanded upon before the Shroud happened, in which case now we're not going to get an explanation about that. But Primacron was creating Unicron. Primus goes and checks things out. He comes in the form of a character he calls the Oracle, and he sort of serves Primacron, probably there just to see what's up. And then because hey, you're creating something that looks an awful lot like the devil, an awful lot like Unicron. And then Unicron gets created, Unicron attacks, and we see in Call of the Primitives, Oracle gets destroyed, and his shell that's carrying Primus's essence leaves the Oracle. Now, future lore will explain that he then returns back to Cybertron, and it's from there that he will begin to the Quintessons cyberform Cybertron, I believe. I'm not sure on the details of Cybertron's cyberforming off the top of my head. This is why I'm planning to do a proper video at some point. But Primus returns to Cybertron. Primus / the Oracle returns to Cybertron in the capsule, which will later become the matrix of leadership for that continuity. The same goes for the Japanese G1 timeline. Very little has changed there. So, for the they both kind of work on the same rules. Ultimately, the Quintessons, who are the creations of Unicron, who have been searching out Primus, arrive on Cybertron. They realize it's Primus, and they decide to, you know what, screw Unicron, we're gonna do our own thing here. They take over Cybertron, they use Vector Sigma or some other MacGuffin to cyberform Cybertron, and they pretty much take control of Primus's energy. And there's some failed attempts, like the transorganics, that they have to lock away inside Cybertron, but ultimately they are able to use Primus's energies to create Cybertronians. They use Primus to create the Autobots and the Decepticons, the consumer goods and the military hardware. And then the old shell that used to be Primus's like holding thing that he used, his transport, I guess, eventually becomes the matrix of leadership here. In the American Generation 1 cartoon continuity, Transformers universe featuring the Wreckers specifically talks about how it was all Primus's idea. It talks about how Primus used the Quintessons in the Japanese G1 cartoon continuity after the events of Primal Scream. As for the Japanese one, I forget where they talk about it in the Japanese continuity, but Primus is so... I know they talk about it somewhere. I can't remember what specific event. I know that currently there's actually a comic, a manga coming out that has Primus meeting Primacron, and it's like sort of developing the idea of how Primus played more of a role in the creation of the Cybertronians there. But ultimately, what you see in Transformers Generation 1, the cartoon, is just part of the story. Ultimately, Primus was using the Quintessons, making them believe that the Quintessons were using Primus to create the Cybertronians in this post-Primal Scream era, and that's how the Quintessons fit in. Is there anything else I'm supposed to talk about? I don't know. I get these comments a lot, and I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. I'll get to eventually. The videos came out in 2016. When are you planning on making the video, Radix? So I figured, let's make a quick video explaining that real fast, so I can have a video to just link someone next time they comment, where are the Quintessons, Radix? Yeah, bada bing, bada boom.